Hi everyone, I am Munisa. I'll ask you to do something. Raise your hands, those who know what exactly responsibility is. Okay, now raise your hands if you think you are a responsible one. As you might guess, I am going to talk about responsibility today, about existence of different kinds of responsibility, such as individual responsibility and collective responsibility. So a couple of years ago, I was pretty sure that I was a responsible individual. And this opinion I had kept until one simple situation, which has changed my concepts about this ability, let's say. So it was geography class, and quite strange teaching methods of her, at least for me. In the beginning of the term, our teacher divided us into groups, and we had to present a new topic every lesson, prepare questions, to be prepared for topics of other groups as well. What is strange here, you might think? So all the strangeness was in her assessment system. This system consists of few criteria. We had to have a presentation, a poster about this topic, a video which is not from the internet, and a short quiz for other groups. At the end of each lesson, she used to give us points, and the group with the highest score used to get 5. Of course, the group with the lowest score used to get 3. And guess who was usually last? Yes, my group. You may ask why. Because usually all work for a group was done by me alone. And because of it, the rest of the group didn't really know how to present it. So here's the next question. Why did I do all work alone? There were 2 main reasons. Firstly, I thought that I was enough responsible to do it all alone, and secondly, I couldn't trust to anyone this project in my group. So at the end of the term, my group had the most number of 3s. And at the last lesson, when our teacher was going to put our term marks, said that I'm going to have a real 3 for my term mark. I wasn't expecting that. All whole that term, I'd been thinking that she will not put me 3, because I was working, I was doing my best, and I was the only one from that group who was really studying that topics. In addition, I was an excellent pupil with all 5s from other subjects, so it was kind of a little shock for me. So guess what I did there? I began to cry. But certainly she didn't care. And suddenly, one girl from my group stood up and said, "Teacher, do not put her that mark. Put the lowest marks, us, but not her. She doesn't deserve that." And then teacher asked why. That girl replied, "Whole this term she did most of the work herself, while we had just been preparing for ready slides and couldn't present it normally. She's not guilty that we didn't study the topics." Then teacher said, "She was the captain of your group, wasn't she? So she had to do, so captain doesn't mean that she had to do most of the work. She had to be responsible for you. She had to make you study the topics and present your project here well yourself." That words of my teacher made me think about my quality of responsibility. So as a result, she didn't put me 3. She gave me 5. Of course, that was great, but it wasn't the point. The main point I got was that I no longer considered myself responsible one. I think most of you had this kind of situations when you work harder than others, but as a result you get the same as they. Or when you work really hard on something and others just get the real result of yours. For me, it was frustrating. Of course, for some people it can be okay, but I think for people who really appreciate their work, it is an important deal. So then I realized that I had a responsibility, but it had slightly different image from that I had before. So that was actually individual responsibility, which is much easier, and probably most of us possess this quality. And but what about the kind of responsibility which my teacher meant? And that was actually collective responsibility. As Google says, collective guilt, also known as collective responsibility, is a concept in which individuals are able to be responsible for other people's actions, which was not my quality. And after time, I also found out that people with individual responsibility avoid being responsible for other people's actions, which I was avoiding of and still continuing that. At that situation, I understood that a real leader of my group with collective responsibility was that girl who spoke up for me, taking responsibility of whole group. Now, I try not to avoid being responsible for someone else. The main conclusion I got from that situation is that when you work in group, you have to put your collective needs of your group ahead of your individual interests. So this is the main essence of collective responsibility. And collective responsibility is the quality of leaders. Thank you.